fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am going to start my speech with the quote that you're probably familiar with a shorter version of. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, although that's not always a bad thing. The planner in this case is me when I was in high school, senior year specifically, and the plan was to make video games. I was the stereotypical kid who was so obsessed with video games. I kind of let everything else go by the wayside, including grades. But yeah, I would drink Mountain Dew. I would eat Doritos sometimes, but yeah, I just love video games. I wanted to kind of keep that aspect going into my adulthood, so I wanted to make video games. So when it was time to go to college, I chose computer science as my major, and luckily enough, my computer the college I went to, Bowie State University, one of the I don't know if they do this in every college, but for their computer science curriculum, they take one language and they teach you several aspects of it, but for a semester, they will just focus on one aspect of the language. The thought behind this was if you know your first language, it will be quicker to learn your second language, and it will be even quicker to learn your third language. But the first language was perfect because the first language was a programming language called C++, and that is used a lot in video games, especially in the C++ has some lower level capabilities, and if you want to optimize your video games, you would use that to optimize. You can actually allocate memory directly on the computer. So you could use this, you can see how this is very valuable in, let's say, optimizing a video game, making it smaller. So the plan was still going, the plan was going well. I would say, since this was college and you probably know you need money in college, I would tutor on the on semesters, but on the off semesters, since there's still some people taking classes, there weren't as many, so my major didn't offer the tutoring service anymore. So I had to find a way to make money, another way to make money. I would say that was the first time I met Dr. Quincy Brown. She was a doctor in computer science, but her main focus was human computer interactions. They, this was 10 years ago, so so mobile phones, Facebook, they're not as big as they are today, but it was still an area that fascinated her. She wanted to know how people interacted with computers. So on the off campus, on the off semesters, on like for example the summer, she would actually she would do research, and I was a research assistant. Actually, it was twofold. I would help her try to figure how humans interacted with computers, specifically mobile phones, and She was also interested in bringing women to get more women in computer science. In my team that I work with now, we have 5 people. There's only one white woman there, and she was more interested in getting black girls. This was an HBC. So right now, even now, 10 years later, we have there's still a problem with the lack of women in computer science. So she was trying to get black women, like middle school age black women, into coding. So when it was time to hey, what career do I want to pick? Oh, wait a minute. I remember this summer I was coding and I really liked it. So I would actually help her do research, and I will also teach coding to these middle school with young ladies. The research again was human computer interaction, and to do that, to figure out a way of how people use their mobile phones, I actually had to learn another language, which is called Java. This is how you build apps for Android phones. And we picked Android because it was just easier. Apple was they make it harder to develop for them, but Android was easier. But we had to learn an entirely new language. And also I had to teach that language to the young ladies so they can actually. It was a twofer. It was a twofer. I actually learned it and I had to teach it at the same time. But during this entire process, I learned a new language and I kind of took to it more. And I also built my first app, which I'm sure Android has it, and Apple has it, and Android has it. The app was to help you see what apps you use. It was kind of like a meta app, like a report. And this was 10 years ago. The phones have it now, but it was just to say, hey, you're on Facebook this much, you're on Twitter this much. But in building that app, I found another area of computer science that I really liked. And after that, I actually started to change my plan to go into video gaming and just into general software programming. The first job I had was in Java. The second job I had was in Java. And even the job I'm doing now currently is in Java. I don't know how, if I met senior high school for WAS, how that will play out, but I know I like my job better, and I think it was a good thing that my plans had to change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, Nikki. Yes, I'm here to evaluate Fawaz on his speech titled Plans of Mice and Men, and it was from his Pathways project, Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. So we gathered from this speech that Fawaz's mentor was Dr. Brown from the university that he went to. This person was very inspiring, was working with younger students to get them interested in STEM and coding. And through his partnership with this professor, he learned that even though he grew up loving video games, maybe even wanted to write them one day, from this experience, he learned a different kind of programming, a different way to use his love of gaming that could help others. And he is really happy with the road that he took, which relates back to the title of his speech, that we can make plans as men, but sometimes things turn out as if we're mice and things just happen as they happen. So thank you, Fawaz, for sharing a very personal story on how you got to perhaps NIST, how you got to what you're doing right now. I really like that you started off your speech with a quote. I would have liked to hear more about this quote. You said it was a partial quote, so I would like to hear more about the context of the quote. I think I know what book it's from, but I could be wrong. I drew my own conclusions on how this quote, this title, related to your story, but I would have liked to hear from you how you thought that this quote related to this story. The second thing I wanted to mention was that you went into the story of languages, and I thought you were talking about spoken languages, Spanish, French. I didn't realize you were talking computer language until you said C++. So for clarity of storytelling, I would include those bits, especially when the word can be very generic, and then people don't follow you in that story. So that's my first tip. The second is that you did tell us about your story of how you met Dr. Brown because you had to get a job, and then you met Dr. Brown, and I think it's Dr. Brown. If I'm incorrect, I'm sorry. I think the story could be even more clear as to why you chose Dr. Brown, or how she really impacted you. Did she say go take this course, or did she say I know you like video gaming, but maybe you should try something else that's broader, or maybe she did get you into gaming. I think a lot more of that story could be told so that we understand how she was really a mentor to you. And then the last thing is you started building an app, and then you realized that maybe video gaming isn't for you, but I didn't really see that clear story through that line. So I think a little clarity in that would be beneficial as well. So all in all, I really like the structure of your story. It was a storytelling element. I did see how you had a mentor and how it changed your life. But again, focusing on those points of confusion and clarity would really make that story have a stronger message. So thanks again, Fawaz.